have followed Solomon in his calling, his kingship, his building the temple, the dedication, building his own homes. And now we're delving into some stuff. Let's call it stuff. Hello. This we can all identify with. All right, marriage, the bride and groom. Solomon was a ladies' man, just like his daddy. Apple don't fall far from the tree. Oh, my goodness gracious. But we are reading here, we have been reading in the poetry of a love relationship between Solomon and the Shulamite woman, one of his women. But we get a good analogy. Many of us have experienced this in our lives. And it ain't going down no lie, and it gets pretty deep. But we also look at this in terms of our relationship with the Lord. Okay? Are we as foolish in love, quote unquote, with the Lord as we are for these males and females that walk this earth? And we've done some pretty dumb stuff. And I've shared myself one of those things. And not afraid to do so. Hey, it is what it is. It was what it was. We were young and foolish. Now, if we're old and foolish, something's wrong. Should have learned our lesson. Okay, and so we have in our notes the summary. I was able to look up a summary of this book of the Songs of Solomon from gotquestions.org, and I found a really good summary, because we're not necessarily going to write notes about this. This is more of discussion. I really was not led to write specific notes about this, but this summary sums it up. And if we look on page 134 in our notes, the first part we've dealt with. And the way this summary does it, it does a great job where it divides up the book of the Songs of Solomon into 3 parts so we can understand the context. Okay, and this is on page 134. I'm just going to read a portion of the notes. And it says, under brief summary, the poetry takes the form of a dialogue between a husband, the king, and his wife, the Shulamite. We can divide the book into 3 sections: the courtship, the wedding, and the maturing marriage. And we see the corresponding scriptures there. The song begins before the wedding as the bride-to-be longs to be with her betrothed, and she looks forward to his intimate caresses. However, she advises letting love develop naturally in its own time. The king praises the Shulamite's beauty, overcoming her feelings of insecurity about her appearance. The Shulamite has a dream in which she loses Solomon and searches throughout the city for him. With the help of the city guards, she finds her beloved and clings to him, taking him to a safe place. Upon waking, she repeats her injunction not to force love. Very good advice that we can give to our young women today. Okay, because the world has turned everything into love. Love is love. Okay, you even have pedophiles who are out there now. They're starting to cry out for their rights. Love is all in the name of love. What a deceit that is. Okay? And so we must be very careful that we are abiding by God's word and not man's word. And the only way we're going to do that is when we know the word of God. And of course, I want to point out as well the letters in the column. You have W, M, Y, N, and B. And it does tell us the author who put this together has divided up the conversation so that we're knowing who is speaking at the time, okay? So the W is the woman, M, the man, Y, the young women of Jerusalem, N is the narrator, B are the brothers. And it says if a letter is in parenthesis, there is a question about the identity of the speaker. So we're doing our best to understand who is talking, because there's a conversation going on amongst various people. So as we encounter Love's Restoration, Song of Songs, the narrator is the first one who is speaking. He was totally protected. Mm-hmm. Make sure he got there. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah. People getting it now? Uh-huh. The parable of the wise and foolish virgins. What were they preparing for? They were preparing for a wedding. But in particular, see, we have to understand the context in which we are reading the Bible. This was about a Jewish wedding. This isn't a wedding on this side of the world. On this side of the world, we focus on the bride. Over there, it's the groom. It's the man. Okay? I'm not going to get into reading because I think most of us know this parable about the wise and foolish virgins. But they were waiting with their lamps to greet the groom who was coming to get the bride. These days, the groom's standing at the altar waiting for the bride to come. No. Okay? Marriage symbolizes God, the triune God, our relationship with God. And we know that one day the groom is coming to get his bride. So when you look at this, go back to what we were reading. What I wrote along that column in big below letters was the groom. It says, what is this coming up from the wilderness like clouds of smoke scented with myrrh and frankincense, and from every fragrant powder of the merchant? First of all, that reminded me of the temple. In the temple where they're offering up fragrance to the Lord on the altar. Okay, in the holy place. There's the altar there, which they constantly were praying and offering up sweet scents to the Lord. And then it's Solomon's royal litter. Anybody know what a litter is? In the context of how it was written, a litter is a carriage. They would take up the person and they would carry them. Okay. That's why you've got to understand the Bible in the context in which it was written. He was carried to his wedding, surrounded by guards, groomsmen, to protect him, to escort him. And of course, he's king. So this is a royal entourage. I heard that word. Okay? This is a royal entourage coming to get his bride. And the narrator saying, hey, look, the king's coming. All dressed up. He's got his litter. He's got a sedan chair. He's leaning back. He ain't driving. He's leaning back. He's relaxing. Posts of silver, its back of gold and its seat of purple. Kingly. And inlaid, the interior is inlaid with love by the women of Jerusalem, decorated. Okay, this is a wedding processional, but it's not the bride, it's the groom. You see how backwards we have it? And because of that, that's our mentality. It's all about the woman. It's got to get back to the male. Verse 11, come out, young women of Zion, and gaze at King Solomon wearing the crown his mother placed on him the day of his wedding, the day of his heart's rejoicing. So it's not quite a jeer as it is, come on out and see him. Everybody, you know how people are, even if you're, I know when I got married, my mama had the guest list. But even though the church was packed, there were still people all on the street. They weren't invited, but they want to come see the bride. They want to come see the dress. Okay? Not invited, but they know a wedding's happening. So everybody, goodness gracious. I have a big family, a really big family. But the people, it's all about the bride. It's all about the dress. Okay? But here, they're coming out to see the groom. Are we waiting for the groom? Are we watching for the groom? Of course, we're thinking of the Eastern Hemisphere now and how they did things. And you got to understand, I can't stress it enough, okay, is that when you're studying the Word, you got to go back to their time and not try and bring everything up till now. When you understand the originality, the intent of the language, and I'm not saying I've got it, believe me, this is a journey every single week, but it gives more insight, and it shows how off course we've gotten as well. Even though the Catholics and whatever countries may be doing it with humans, are we doing it for Jesus? Are we standing and waiting and watching for the groom? Are we preparing ourselves? Now, hopefully you understand that parable of the 10 virgins a little better. And you can apply it to ourselves better. Okay? Thank you for your comments there. So here we are. He's got a crown on his head. His mother placed on him the day of his wedding. And we are waiting for the groom to come back. King of kings, Lord of lords, crowned with the diadem and ready to join with his bride, which is the church. I hope you're excited because I'm excited. Okay, we got to live with excitement. So very top there, above the title, Love's Restoration, I wrote Jewish wedding. Groom gets his bride. It's about the groom. It's the responsibility of the male. He's not standing at the altar waiting for her to show up. He's going and getting her. And whenever you study a Jewish wedding, you'll see that he goes to get her. Woo! Lyrics right there. Damn, some lyrics. Juicy, juicy, juicy. Let's just call it what it is. Okay. So let's go through this. So here, now, who's speaking here? The man is speaking. Who's he speaking to? Right. So where I wrote the groom above, now I write on the side of that column the bride. Okay, so we've had a vision of the groom. Now we get to see the bride. Okay? And we're going to go through this bit by bit here. How beautiful you are, my darling, how very beautiful. Behind your veil, your eyes are like doves. Now remember we had talked before about the veil when we were in chapter 1. And she said, why should I be like one who veils herself? And remember, I asked you what that veil signified. And I said in that culture it was a prostitute. This is a different veil. This is a different word and a different veil. And it's funny because when I looked it up, it actually meant hair, locks, her hair. That her hair covered her face. Not all of it. It comes next. Your hair is like a flock of goats streaming down Mount Gilead. The goats there had long hair. So her hair was long. And it kind of shielded her eyes. There are not many women that will cut their hair like mine. I had a hard time. I had a debate about that myself. I did it years and years and years ago. The reason why I cut it, quite frankly, was because when Ashley was little, I may have told the story before, but whenever she wanted to go swimming, I hesitated. Why did I hesitate? No, because I'd have to wash my hair afterwards. And in talking with some people about it, one person said, you know, that's the one issue with black women when it comes to swimming and exercise. Their hair, having to do their hair. Okay? Now, in the Jewish culture, long hair was a sign of their beauty and their glory. And that's why you see many Hebrew women, long hair. Okay? And so here, this is the culture that we are reading. So the veil was not so much a white wedding veil like we're talking about. It was her hair. Okay, he's talking about, he's looking from head to toe, as we're going to find out, and he's talking about all her physical attributes. So there's her hair, like a flock of goats. Her eyes like doves. Doves were considered clean birds. Okay, innocence. You know how you can tell somebody by looking into their eyes? All right? So he's looking into her eyes and he's seeing innocence. Okay, clean. Your teeth are like a flock of newly shorn sheep come up from the washing. Okay, clean, white. What's that? Say that again. Well, that's what we get to. Okay? Each one having a twin and not one missing. You know what that means? Not just perfect. It means she was young. When you open up somebody's mouth, you can almost tell their age. She was young. She hadn't had teeth pulled or teeth falling out yet. She was young. That's how they used to tell a person's age back then. Open your mouth and let me see your teeth. Okay? Can't do it now because we've got caps and implants and veneers and all that. She's got this long flowing hair. She's young. Her teeth are beautiful. Look at that. Your lips are like a scarlet cord. Your mouth is lovely. I don't know if she was wearing makeup at the time, but she had full and beautifully colored lips. No Botox. Absolutely. Okay. Remember, she was dark skinned. She had been out in the sun. She was almost sunburnt. Okay. And she thought she did not look attractive. Well, I think after this, okay, behind your veil, again, that same word for the hair, your brow is like a slice of pomegranate. I could just eat you up. Your neck is like a tower, the Tower of David, constructed in layers. 1,000 bucklers are hung on it. Bucklers, shields, like she had necklaces. Okay, she had jewelry. Your breasts are like 2 fawns, twins of a gazelle that feed among the lilies. Young girl. Okay, perky. Weren't sagging. Hello. Come on, she didn't need a boob job. Right? Firm. That probably meant she didn't have any children. You know what having children does to the boobs. Okay? It's all south after that, man. I remember when I was pregnant with Ashley, and the nurse said, she took my bra and she pulled it up and put it to the tightest setting, and she said, you have to wear it like that. All through your nursing and all that, because if you don't, right? Y'all okay with this, right? Okay. Because right here, Before the day breaks and the shadows flee, I will make my way to the mountain of myrrh and the hill of frankincense. Anybody want to speculate on what he talking about? Tyra, you wiping your brow? Yep, he's anticipating consummation. Okay? The mountain of myrrh and the hill of frankincense. Coming in hot. You are absolutely beautiful, my darling, with no imperfection in you. Well, he sure is describing it. Okay? Giving her that vote of confidence that she needed because she was not feeling beautiful. Like how we don't feel beautiful in the sight of God. But remember that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son for each and every one of us. We are worth dying for. So then it says, come with me from Lebanon, my bride, with me from Lebanon. Descend from the peak of Amana, from the summit of Senir and Hermon, from the dens of lions, from the mountains of the leopards. Lebanon, Amana, Senir, and Hermon. They were all mountains, mountain peaks. The dens of lions and the mountains of leopards. She was inaccessible. She wasn't out there flaunting herself, running around. Remember, she said, I'm not going to be like one of those prostitutes that hang out. I'm special. She kept herself to herself, inaccessible. Is that what our young ladies are doing today? Opposite. Okay, making themselves available to just about anybody. But here, she's inaccessible. And it's those ones that the guys seem to go after more. The prostitutes and the loose ones, oh, they're easy. But they're, especially when it comes to wanting a wife, they go after the ones that keep themselves to themselves. Yeah, and when they marry elsewhere, just like the nation of Israel, when they started marrying outside, the culture changed. It did. Yeah, and God hasn't changed. But unfortunately, we're not raising our children like this. They're not in God's presence, which is why pastors pushing so hard for the children. Because if we don't catch them, our culture will be flipped on its head. It is now already. Now we're flying flags of stuff that God hates and celebrating evil. And unfortunately, the only voice that I hear is our pastor. Okay? So this is the thing, is to get back to teaching right here. Teach this. What marriage means, what that physical relationship means in the eyes of God. It's not that it's wrong, it's wrongly used. Well, again, our culture is being flipped upside down. Okay? And so we have got to hold on for these children's sake. So important. And so here she's inaccessible, yet again. And I take to heart what you said, Deaconess Rollins, and I'm so glad that you're having that conversation to be able to hear the hearts of the young men. They still want a clean woman. So we've got to encourage our young women to be clean. The female sets the standard of the relationship, you know, because she will say yes or she will say no. Okay? Exactly. And again, like I said, and this is what we have to tell our young ones, if you want to know if he really loves you, don't give him sex. And see how long he stays around. Okay? That's the key right there. And look at it here. He's ready to go to his mountain of myrrh and hill of frankincense. Okay? And so we're at verse 10. How delightful your love is, my sister, my bride. Your love is much better than wine, and the fragrance of your perfume than any balsam. Your lips drip sweetness like the honeycomb, my bride. Honey and milk are under your tongue. The fragrance of your garments is like the fragrance of Lebanon. Key thing here, my sister, of course, he's not talking about his blood sister. Let's get that straight. Okay? Don't just hold them at that, because a lot of them know this. Like Satan knew what to say to Eve in the garden. Okay? Don't let the lyrics take you off sides. There's a lot more to it than that. I heard you, Kathy. All right? But that word sister, akoth, and it's a widely used term, just like how we call each other brother and sister, which means we're of the same mindset, the same belief. She's of that same mindset, that same culture as him. That's very important too. Is he going down the same road that you are spiritually? That's what we want to be sharing with our young people. And not because of you. Is he doing it because he wants to develop his own relationship with the Lord? Is he already in a walk with the Lord? Or is he doing it for you? If he does it for you, believe me, it won't last. Let's go to verse 12. My sister, my bride, you are a what? Locked garden. Again, inaccessible. He can't come in there whenever he wants. He can't have her whenever he wants. It's locked. And it's not even that she has the key. Because when you go back to verse 8, she's in a den of lions and leopards. She's got protection. Mainly it's her brothers. Her brothers wind up talking later on. Are brothers covering their sisters the way that they used to? See, homes are without a father now. It used to be that the fella had to go through daddy to get to the girl. That don't happen anymore. You don't even have to go through mama. Why? Because he's got a cell phone. He can get straight to her. With all these lyrics, and she's young and foolish, and that's what she's going to fall for. There's no lion, there's no leopard, there's no locked garden around her. And she's young. No missing teeth. And yet these young girls are having babies. Why? Because they've been accessed. By the time we are at the age where our children should be married, I would pray that we're wise enough to be able to have some type of discernment when our children bring their intended to meet. And if the intended doesn't want to come, that's a big red flag. Okay? And you got to be honest about it. Thank you. I'm trying to finish this section here, but thank you for your comments. I knew it was going to generate conversation, and it should. Then he comes down to, your branches are a paradise. I'm at verse 13. Of pomegranates with choicest fruits, henna and nard and saffron, calamus and cinnamon, and all the trees of frankincense, myrrh and aloes, with all the best spices. And up the top there, I wrote sugar and spice and everything nice. Because we all remember that. That's what girls are made of. I ain't going to say the other part. But that was all perfumes and essential oils. She was well prepared for him. Okay? She took care of herself and made sure, this is the bride we're talking about. Don't forget, we are the bride of Christ. Well prepared in anticipation. The rapture should not come as a surprise to the bride of Christ. She should be well prepared, well oiled in the word, a sweet smelling savor to the Lord. Okay? And she's ready. Look, you are a garden spring, a well of flowing water streaming from Lebanon. Okay? So you want to get graphic? We can get graphic. After all them lyrics, is she not ready for him? She should be. Okay? Come on now, think about it. Your mouth's watering and every other orifice. Okay? Ready to receive. And then, so here you have the woman. Blow on my garden and spread the fragrance of its spices. Let my love come to his garden and eat its choicest fruits. Okay? So here you have now, let's say, just before consummation. She is now opening herself to receive her husband, her groom. Love is stirred and awakened, and it should be. The way you long for your wife is the way we should long for Christ. Don't let it dim. Don't let coming to church become old. Don't let praise and worship become stale. If it gets stale, open this up now that you got understanding and read it aloud. Play it on an audio Bible. Read it in the most sultry way you can. But the way we long for Christ, the way we long for a man, a woman, we prepare ourselves sexually. That's the longing that we should have, to be in God's presence, to be with the Lord, to join as his bride. That's why marriage is a shadow of the relationship of the triune God. And that's why it's so important to understand this exactly like this. Because sex is the strongest tool in humankind. Look how it's got our children hooked. Okay? It's a strong, strong tool. It's being abused. And we should use it to focus on our relationship with God. That's why God celebrates marriage. That's why he celebrates the union of a male with a female. It is symbolic of his relationship with his people. In fact, on the side there I wrote marriage, a sweet-smelling savor in God's nostrils. Absolutely true. And that's why marriage is being attacked the way that it is. That's why the abomination. And I God bless Pastor for what she did this week. I don't know if you all saw it, but she stood across from the U.S. consulate building that was flying that 6-colored flag, and she spoke out. Right? And we need to speak out. We need to stand firm on God's plan for mankind. Let's pray.